Welcome to Penfield. This is the Community Choice Aggregation Public Information Meeting. It's the first of 3 in-person, and we'll be having 4 webinars. And it's just to give our residents some information about the renewal of the Community Choice Aggregation Program in Penfield. And I'd like to introduce Javier Barrios, and he will present, and then at the end we will take questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening. Again, my name is Javier Barrios, and I'm with Good Energy. Appreciate everybody who showed up today and everybody who's on watching the public access. Really appreciate it. And I think YouTube as well. It's going live on YouTube. So thank you, everyone, for making the time. This is one of 3 in-person public meetings to explain the information and the updates and the price information and the term for the renewal of community choice aggregation. But with that, we're going to go and give a little bit of a background. So what I'm going to do is go to the CCA agenda and what we're going to be talking about. So I'll give a little bit of background. I'm going to talk a little bit about who Good Energy is. I'm going to define and explain what community choice aggregation, CCA, is specifically and what it does in a community. I'm going to talk about how it impacts your utility bill for electricity. And I'm also going to explain how you enroll or opt out of the program. And then we're going to go explaining where you can find certain FAQs and questions from our website. And then at the end, we're going to have a public Q&A session for you guys to ask any questions that you may have. With that, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background of what CCA is. CCA was a new law and a Public Service Commission order that was passed in 2016. And there's been various, updates to that order, and there's been some changes and modifications over the years. But the first order, and now it actually is a legislation in the state of New York where a community can run a CCA program. And let me go to the... Is that working now?
Now try.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, just going to back up a little bit on the background. So the important thing that people need to understand is that in the state of New York and anywhere, there's just not a lot of renewable energy, right? The other thing that we have in place in New York is that the prices, or what we call the tariff rates, by the utilities that they issue ratepayers, they fluctuate, right? They change every month. So there isn't a fixed rate. There's always a moving target. And it changes, obviously, based on season, based on demand, whether it's the summer months and you're going to have more AC demand, or it's the winter month, you're going to have more heating load, or shoulder month where you're going to use less energy. So that plays into the prices of the tariff rates. So they fluctuate, and they utilize 2 markets, the day-ahead market and the real-time market. We actually have fluctuating markets and indices in the state of New York. So as it fluctuates, your tariff rate fluctuates. So there is no fixed rate for your tariff. So understand that. And there's very little renewable energy. So community choice aggregation brings an opportunity for communities to aggregate all the homes within a community. And so that is going to incentivize more renewable energy to be built in the area, because a community can utilize, just like Penfield, can utilize renewable energy as a source for their residents. So before that, I'm going to explain who Good Energy is. I work for Good Energy. We're a private entity. We're not a government agency. We are a CCA administrator. We have a special designation with the Public Service Commission. We're approved and registered with the PSC, Public Service Commission. And nobody can just do a CCA. You actually have to have a registration with the Public Service Commission. I want to make sure that you understand that Good Energy is not what we call in New York an ESCO or a supplier, a competitive supplier. We are an administrator sort of like a consultant, right, that administers the program. And what does that entail? That entails doing the RFP process, which stands for Request for Proposal or Quote. So we do that management. We do a price discovery of what the market is for that CCA price for the residents. We also do the supplier selection or recommend the supplier selection for the community, for the town, and together we decide what the best term and the best price is for the residents and what kind of renewable mix, what kind of energy you're going to be getting. We also are in charge of the community outreach and education, which is what we're doing right now. This is one of the things that we do. We present about the program, and so we're having this in-person meeting. This is a mandatory meeting that the Public Service Commission makes a CCA administrator do for the general public. And then we also do the ongoing customer service and support along with the selected supplier. That's something we do. And we handle the renewal process, which is what we did here in this case. We renewed the program for another 2 years. A little background of who Good Energy is. We've been doing this for several years. Our company's about 25 years old. We've been in the municipal space and doing CCAs or municipal aggregation for about 16 years. So it's something that we're very familiar with. If you look at Good Energy by the numbers, we serve about 3 million residents across the states, and we run about 500 municipal energy programs in several states. We are a New York-based firm, where our offices are in Midtown Manhattan, but we have offices in Dallas, Illinois, Boston, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and several other local regional offices. Okay, back to explaining the benefits of community choice aggregation. And that's a very strange word. Why are they using community choice? This is a word that was basically born in the West Coast, and I think many of the states are adapting this particular title for this. Community energy aggregation in certain states. Community choice aggregation is because the choice is the choice of renewable energy, is essentially what that's talking about. So, and you're also giving a choice to the resident. Instead of just having the monopoly providing a tariff rate for you, you now have the municipal government has a choice to provide another option. So think of Penfield's municipal CCA price as a second default rate to the utility. And the only difference is that it's a fixed price instead of a fluctuating price. One of the positives is that you can leverage community population. You know, there's not a lot of residential offers out there, so residential offers are very expensive. And also, they, in many cases, some of these ESCOs or suppliers provide these teaser rates that can be good for a small amount of time, maybe 3 months to 6 months, and then they switch over to higher rates or a fluctuating rate that can really scream up in prices. So you have to be very careful. So one of the things that we do in leveraging the community population is there is additional oversight for that option that you have. Of course, a resident can always choose another supplier. So think of your options with CCA as having another option with a municipal program or a municipal offer. So you have the utility as an option, you have the municipal offer as an option, and then you have competitive suppliers that are offering maybe some prices on the street, is what we like to call them. Again, it's a fixed price versus a fluctuating utility price. That's one thing that's different. So it's not a straight apples to apples comparison. It is apples to oranges because a fixed price stays fixed, kind of like a mortgage rate, and then there is fluctuations in the mortgage industry. So just like energy, you're going to have, just like the mortgage industry, you're going to have changes in the energy industry as well, in the energy markets. The benefit also is that it's, you still have the same level of service. So RG&E continues to be your utility, and also your price is on your utility bill. So you're not getting two bills and getting confused. It's all on one bill, and it's very simple in that respect. And then one key benefit is obviously more of a renewable mix in your supply. And that's one of the things that Penfield has committed to. They've committed to sustainability in the market and to understand If we see why we're doing this is because renewable energy is necessary, especially with the demand that's growing in the market. If you see the news, the global news, the local news, you see in the New York Times, on Fox, on CNN, you see that artificial intelligence is a real thing, and artificial intelligence needs data and data storage. So data storage companies, large companies like Google, Amazon, they're needing more because computer processing is really growing at an exponential rate that we can't, we can't keep up with, right? So a lot of these data centers are utilizing this power that's going to be that really is going to be needed for residents. So I think it's important for us to know that these CCA programs aid in providing more renewable sources and leverage the population and the buying power there for the resident. Okay, don't want to, I basically explain, the benefits as far as what you're accessing. As a single home, you don't have those offers, you don't have the buying power, but you're creating economies of scale and going and getting renewable energy and electricity at a cheaper price. And so if you see the rate that we have for Penfield, even though it's a higher rate than the current utility rate, the offers on the street or the offers that are out there are much more expensive. So at least you're leveraging that through the community. So now I'm going to go a little bit into the specifics of your electricity bill and how that works. And here's just a quick infographic of the electricity grid and the topology of the grid. And so on the left-hand side, you have the supply source, which would be anything that generates power. So it could be nuclear, it could be solar, it could be wind, it could be hydro, it could be a natural gas peaker plant. All that's going into the grid. It doesn't go to your home specifically. It goes into the grid and then is socialized throughout the grid. Then it's transformed into little bits and pieces that eventually get to your home. That's how it works. And you have two components in your electricity bill. So the two components are your delivery costs, which are handled by RG&E, and then you have your supply component, which is handled by the market. It's that fluctuated index market and tariff rate that fluctuates every month. So the delivery charges also fluctuate, but they're a little bit more fixed on the utility side. Those don't change. What we're focusing on with the CCA is it affects your supply charge. So your supply charge is what is fixed and does not fluctuate anymore. So you have some price certainty there. You know what that is. So again, there is no secondary bill. There's only one bill. You don't have to worry about getting another bill. It's still the utility that handles the billing process for residents. Again, no change in utility service. And so here's a sample RG&E bill. You see on the top, there is your delivery charges, and there's a subject line there that says electricity delivery charges. It's pretty easy to understand. A lot of people don't understand how to read a bill, so here's a little lesson in that. And then behind that or underneath that is the electric supply charges, and that's what's being impacted by the CCA rate. So that's what's being fixed. So instead of getting your supply charge from RG&E, you're getting your supply charge from the CCA program. And so those are your line items. That's just an example of, and this presentation will be available online on the PenfieldCCA.com website. Okay, now we're going to talk about who is actually eligible for the CCA program. So folks that are eligible there's two rate classes. There's the residential rate class, which is the SC1, and then there's the small commercial class, which is the SC2. Any large rate classes, like, for example, like a manufacturing, an industrial plant, maybe a large hotel, a McDonald's, those are customers that are not eligible. Something like a nail salon or an office space or something like that, it has a direct bill that they do qualify. So that's your small commercial. Ineligible accounts, if you have a block on your account and you don't want to get switched by anybody in New York State, you call up your utility and you could ask for a block, and you'll never get switched by anybody. So that's one thing to know. If you really feel like you want to stay with the utility and you don't want anybody to touch your service, please utilize that. Penfield and the CCA administrator cannot do that for you. If you want your account to be blocked, you have to call RG&E directly and ask them to do it. We cannot do that for you. So just keep that in mind. That's a service we do not offer. That's something you have to do one-on-one with the utility. If you are in any assistance program, LMI stands for low to moderate income. If you're a low income or you're receiving state aid on your bill, then you will automatically not be in this program. The reason is because folks who are in an APP program, they need a guaranteed savings. So I believe that there are no ESCOs or competitive suppliers that have a special waiver in New York State that allows to offer a product like that, guaranteed savings. So there is no offer for that. You can do it in the state, but it's not a viable offer, unfortunately. And then if you are on with an ESCO, a supplier, competitive supplier, you automatically are parsed out of the data that we receive from the utility, and you will not be switched. So you don't have to worry about it. If you're on with an ESCO, then nobody's going to touch your stuff. It's kind of like being on a block situation. There is a delineation in the data, and so we don't receive that information. Okay, program renewal. Pretty simple. You don't really need to do anything. Again, this is a renewal, so if you are already in the program, you just stay in the program and you disregard anything that you're receiving via mail, and I'll go into that. So there's no sign up, there's no enrollment. You're automatically enrolled. There is a window where you can de-enroll yourself. You could opt out, and that's 30 days. There's going to be a letter that's going to be going out approximately sometime in October. I don't know the exact date. There's a process to approve that letter. And so when you receive that letter is when you have the opportunity to opt out, and I'll go into the specifics. How to opt out? You're going to receive the letter. The letter is going to give you some instructions. You have 30 days from the day that you get the letter to opt out. However, if you get enrolled, let's just say, or you know, somehow you get this letter and you weren't enrolled in the program, you get enrolled, you can opt out afterwards, okay? In this particular case, people who are already members of the program are the ones that are going to be switched. If you have opted out in the past, it's likely that you will not be opted into the program in this renewal. There's three methods to opt out. The opt-out letter, which with a return self-addressed postcard. You can go to penfieldcca.com/opt-out-electricity. The link is there. The link is on the website, which is Penfield CC. There's a mistake on the thing. It should be penfieldcca.com. Apologies. And then you could also call the 800 number. That's the number to the supplier, which I'm going to go into who the supplier is on the renewal. And that's 833-942-3023. Okay. And who can opt in? Accounts that were previously in the program can opt in. So if you opted out years ago and you wanted to come back into the program, that's the benefit of this program. You could leave the program and opt in whenever you'd like. So you have that full flexibility. There is no termination penalty. There is no fees to come in and out of the program. The only thing you're waiting is the meter cycle, right? So if you opt in, you don't opt in on the next day or in a week. You have to wait for the next meter cycle depending on what meter cycle you fall. There's about 4 meter cycles: first week, second week, third week, and fourth week. Everybody has a different meter cycle in each utility in New York. So depending on what that meter cycle is, it could be 30 days, it could be 45 days, it could be 50 days, right? Depending on where you fall and where you wanted to opt in. So it really depends. I would give it like a 45-day cycle for you to jump in. Eligible accounts, I already went through it. Obviously, those SC1, SC2 accounts, and then the ineligible accounts still stay out. You can't opt in if you're an APP customer. And if you did not get the letter and you felt like you needed the letter, you can certainly opt in and try to opt in, call up our 800 number, and somebody can decipher whether you're eligible. You also, in this program, have the option for a premium price to opt into 100% green. I'm going to go into the specifics of what we're getting here, and I'm going to go into the details of the price, how much renewable energy it is, and so that'll be in the next slide. So this is a draft of the opt-out letter. This letter has to be approved by the Public Service Commission after we do our first 30 days of outreach. After the first 30 days of outreach, the CCA administrator is going to do a filing with the Public Service Commission showing that we have committed and finalized the first 30 days and completed the first 30 days, and then we submit this opt-out letter for approval. Usually it is a formality, and they approve it rather quickly. And in that opt-out letter, you have certain key information, and I brought it out in this particular slide. So the supplier that we selected, Good Energy and Penfield, is Constellation. They were the supplier of record and were the incumbent. So we renewed with Constellation again, Constellation New Energy. And so here are the numbers. So the RG&E standard electric supply for residential is about 7.7 cents a kilowatt hour. And then for small commercials is very similar, 7.7 cents. That's a trailing 12-month average. And then the selection from Penfield is a 50% renewable supply. That's the default. That's the standard for the CCA, and it's at 9.82 cents. And then also for small commercial, it's 9.82 cents a kilowatt hour. To opt up to renewable supply, CCA 100% product is 10.2 cents approximately, and then also 10.2 cents for commercial as well. Keep in mind, what that means to a resident. Depending on what you use annually, if you have a smaller house, it's probably about $5 a month extra that you're paying. If you're a larger house, it's probably more like $11 to $13 a month that you're paying for renewable energy on the 50% green, just so you understand what the dollars mean to you. With this, this doesn't mean you have to stay on the program. You can certainly opt out of the program whenever you want, and you can come into the program whenever you're not. This is not something that you have to stay on. You have the option to come back and forth. So I'm just highlighting the numbers again. Again, just to repeat, 7.7 cents. Small commercial is slightly higher for the 12-month trailing, and then about 9.82 cents for residential and commercial. It is a fixed rate versus a variable rate. It is a renewable versus a standard rate, and it's a 2-year fixed term from December 2025 to December 2027. Okay, and with that, I have ended my presentation. I'm going to open up to public questions. And yes.
Sorry. So we're recording it. Do you mind standing at the microphone so anyone can hear you? And maybe you can.
And maybe state your name. Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Okay. I'm Cheryl DiStefano. When Penfield first did this whole aggregation thing with Constellation, I did get into it, and I thought the whole purpose of it was to have a lower rate than RG&E.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started the program, we did have a lower rate. It wasn't the only reason, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Penfield, but if I may, I think one of the things that was most important is to bring a renewable mix to the community. Sarah, do you want to add to that?
So I've been here the whole time through the process. At the first time the town started the program in 2021, the town board wanted to move forward with a renewable program, and they were happy to move forward with a renewable program that ended up having some savings for residents. But throughout the whole time, there has never been a guarantee that there's savings. because we can't guarantee that with RG&E having that variable rate. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Yeah, and I think the point in what the program provides is the flexibility for the resident to judge whether they want the renewable option, look at the rates, see what the website says. We do update the rates on the website and see if it's best for them to opt out or to stay on. For budget certainty reasons, right? You have a fixed price over a variable price. So
Right.
the one thing we can't predict is where prices are going or whether they're going up or down. So
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Does anyone else have questions in the room? Feel free.
George 4-hour. Can I tell by looking at my electric bill whether or not I am blocked or eligible?
No, you would have to call
So you
to see
can't.
if you're blocked.
I will tell you, if you want to see if you're in the program right now, you can look at your bill, and if you have your last page says Constellation New Energy, or your first page in your summary has Constellation New Energy, that's how you would know if you're currently part of the program. But no, RG&E is the only one that can tell you if you have a block on your account. Are there any other questions in the room? Okay, seeing none, I'll check in with PCTV. Are there any online questions?
Currently, we have not received a question.
Okay. Then I will thank everyone for coming to this meeting. I am Sarah Waterman, the Sustainability Engineer for the Town of Penfield. If you would like my card afterwards for any future questions or anything that might come up for you later, I can hand that out after. But with that, I will thank Javier for this presentation. For anyone online that's viewing this now or later, we will again have 2 more in-person public information meetings and 4 webinars. And the opt-out period will be after the opt-out letter is sent in October. And that will be the beginning of that period. So thank you for your time, and
Thank
have
you.
a great night.
Thank you.